To Kuwait now, where the ban on public gatherings was defied by protesters, with reports that thousands are demonstrating against new voting rules. It's a peaceful rally, but police still resorted to stun grenades and smoke bombs. Geopolitical analyst Eric Draitser joins me now. Eric, protests in Kuwait are usually described as peaceful, so why do you think the government has actually prohibited gatherings of more than 20 people and threatening heavy consequences?
Well, I think the answer is quite simple, and that is that the government is terrified. They look at protest movement developing in Saudi Arabia, one that's continued to go on in Barain. We see the same around the Arab world more generally, and Kuwait looks at itself, or rather the government does, and they see that they really stand no chance of maintaining power, maintaining control of that country, unless they're able to successfully suppress and repress the opposition.
Could we really see the momentum grow and this actually turn into a full-scale rebellion?
Well, rebellion, revolution, reform. I mean, I think that it's degrees between that separate those distinctly different phenomenon. But I do think that the winds of change have certainly come to Kuwait, to Oman, and to many of these other countries in the GCC states that really kind of still employ a backwards mode of political organization. That is to say, essentially, feudal monarchy. The people of Kuwait are not asking for anything terribly excessive. All they're asking for is representation within the parliament and parliamentary rule. And this is, of course, anathema to what these the monarchs, the absolute monarchs, the emirs want in the region.
So these voting changes will in no way appease the people, but actually provoke them?
Well, yeah, because what has actually happened is that the government in Kuwait has made it more difficult, if not entirely impossible, for any opposition parties to gain a foothold in power in the country. So essentially monopolizing control within the hands of the Sabah family and the circles that surround them, and maintaining control of the country that way, essentially a form of despotism.
Now, Kuwait's situation has striking similarities with Barain, which I was just talking about a little earlier before we spoke to you, especially when it comes to getting any international attention or help. Why is that?
Very simple. These are client states of the United States. Barain houses the U.S. Fifth Fleet of the Navy. Kuwait, as we all know, the role that it played in both wars against Iraq. Kuwait is very much dependent on Saudi Arabia and the United States. And so all of this is part of a geopolitical calculus of U.S. hegemony. U.S. does not want to see its control over the region slip away by something as piddling as the democratic aspirations of the people of the region.
So with that Western support, there's no way we will see any change that the people really want there in those countries?
Well, the only way that you'll see it is by mass movements that develop in the streets that can actually bring down these governments. The monarchies that control Saudi Arabia and some of the other Gulf kingdoms, these are very tenuous. Their hold on power, rather, is very tenuous. They do not enjoy support of the vast majority of the people, but rather they enjoy the support of those groups within those countries that benefit from that. However, the Shia minority in the Qatif provinces of Saudi Arabia, or the minority really all throughout the country in Barain and in Kuwait, these groups are now gaining a voice. And what we're seeing post-Arab Spring is the development of these democracy movements, and those have the possibility of real revolution in those countries, a revolution that could topple a monarchy and change the order of those nations.
Analyst for StopImperialism.com, thank you indeed for joining us live from New York.